Hello, this is Hector Bordas, Conversations with Hector, and this is an opportunity for me to dive a little deeper into the lives of people like you and me. And today we have Matt Bordas. Yes, Bordas, the same last name. Matt's my nephew, and he's also my brother's son, Anthony Bordas, which we had on the podcast. We also had Ali Bordas, who's his sister. Matt, he's an investor. I think he's probably a financial guru, entrepreneur, calls himself a full stack engineer, which I have no idea what it is. And we're going to, hopefully he tells us what that is. He's a very kind man, very generous, and he always seems to be in this amazing flow, just kind of flowing through life in a very calm, peaceful way. So welcome, Matt. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, thank you. That was a very I don't, generous intro, I guess. I'm not sure I can really match all of those things, so I'll try my best.
Well, you always seems to have this very calm, very peaceful demeanor, which is really fantastic. It's like there's no stress. But when I talk to Anthony, my brother, he says that you're pretty intense, which is really interesting. This is like this up. So that maybe you'll share something about that. So what's a full stack engineer?
Yeah, so in like software and software engineering, it's basically right computer
Hmm.
programming, writing lines of code, which are just literally just instructions for a computer. So it's funny, like as a software engineer, you're basically telling computers what to do all day, which is kind of funny way to look at it. And there's full stack really means like so when you think about sort of a typical software application, you have what's known as the front end, which is basically like the interface that a user sees,
Hmm.
like us. So right now we're using this Riverside FM app, which it's really cool, by the way. This is awesome. So like this is the front end, what we're seeing in the browser here, and that is a totally different set of code and
Hmm.
technologies. So like front end programming is very different for like getting things to look pretty in the browser, styling things, colors, functionality, all that stuff. So there are some people that just do front end software. So that's typically done in, well, at least in the web,
Hmm.
in JavaScript. Although, you have a front end. Every type of software has a front end. Front end on
Right.
your mobile app, right? That's a totally different language. So that's kind of front end development, and then back end is essentially what's behind the scenes, what you don't see. So what's known as like in the on the servers, now really in the cloud mainly. So servers that are just in some warehouse or data center in the middle of nowhere, most likely
Yeah.
controlled by either Amazon, Google, or Microsoft. And that's a totally different technology for writing code on the server. And that's known as backend. Typically, there's a lot of different backend languages like Python. You can also do JavaScript on the backend. You can also, one I've been using recently is called Google Go. So yeah, you could have people that just do stuff on the back end, people that just do stuff on the front end, and there are people that are more like generalists that will do both back end and front end. So they'll work on like the interface, the designs, and then they'll also like make sure that connects correctly to the server on the back end. And that's kind of what I am, is just more of a generalist,
Uh-huh.
someone that can work on like both ends of it, and that's typically just known as like full stack.
Well, that's good to know. So what drew you to that field?
Yeah, software engineering in general. I mean, I think even since I've been a young kid, like I've always loved video games and computers, although I never programmed. I mean, there are some people that have the very quintessential like prodigy story where it's like I programmed since I was five
Yeah.
and I like was like in all these competitions and science fairs and
Uh-huh.
like sold some software when I was 11. Well, I didn't do any of that. I was just playing video games. Uh, which yeah, I think that just made me comfortable on a computer. So I think it was always kind of like a natural penchant for computers,
Uh-huh.
but never did anything that serious. And then in college, my first year, I was an undeclared major. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then I had like seen the movie. I'd seen the movie The Social Network. I think I like rewatched it and also was just like reading about a lot of
Yeah.
things going on in the San Francisco Bay Area and Silicon Valley, which like I went to school in UC Davis, which was near the Sacramento, California capital. It was only like 45 minutes away from that, but then also like Silicon Valley and the Bay Area was probably only like 2 hours away from Davis. So there was a lot, like I was pretty close to that whole scene. And I just became really intrigued and inspired by this concept of only needing really an internet connection and a laptop, and you could basically just bring any idea to life in your dorm room. I thought that was just a really profound field, and I was like, I want to build something like that. That sounds really incredible, and I want to like start a company and try to just do that whole kind of Silicon Valley journey. And then just my second year in college, I just switched into the computer science major. I
Yeah.
mean, I had a horrible GPA going into that. I had been just like messing around my freshman year, not really doing much. I mean, I think I barely qualified to switch into the major. The advisor was literally like looking at my transcripts, like you're gonna have to hit the ground running. Like was the my parents were there, literally like heard her say you have to hit the ground running, which was like I think a subtle way of saying like this is gonna be really hard and you're probably not gonna make it. But yeah, I just really tried to persevere and stick with it and just kind of throw myself into it. Probably I went too extreme into it. I didn't really have much of a life my next like 3 years in school, but it seemed to I really ended up enjoying it and it's yeah, I've been doing that ever since.
So, so wait, so I'm just curious. You, with a bad GPA, I can't even imagine that. I mean, you're such a smart person. But hey, um, what was your favorite game when you were playing? What platform were you using?
I mean, luckily, yeah, my GPA did improve once I got into the major and
Oh,
started
good,
taking school
good.
seriously.
Yeah.
So I ended with a pretty good one,
Mm,
but not freshman year. I mean, I liked a lot of video games. I mean, I think when I was like
uh,
a lot younger, I played a lot of StarCraft on the computer, just on like a desktop. And then I really got into Halo on the Xbox, and that was just, I was obsessed with Halo for a long
uh-huh.
time. And then Call of Duty, of course.
Yeah, Halo. Oh, that was such a fantastic game. My son and I used to play that so much. Such a fantastic game. And then who was it? Was it Apple TV or Prime? They created a Halo series, and it was kind of disappointing. I don't know.
Did they? I don't know if I saw that. Oh, did that just come out? Is that the new one?
Yeah, yeah. I was kind of disappointed, but I don't know. Maybe I was expecting something like the game, but it
Yeah.
wasn't. But that's fine. That's fine. So the movie The Social Network. In some ways, it was controversial. What did you find in that movie that made you so curious?
I mean, yeah, definitely there was, even looking back on it now, like I don't really like social
Uh,
media actually at all. Mark Zuckerberg is obviously very controversial
Uh-huh.
figure now. So, and even in the movie, there was a lot of just positives and negatives, and
Uh-huh.
you could just see like a lot of just the it's kind of foreshadowing. Well, I mean, that movie was created, I think it was like right before or even shortly after a lot of like the big
Uh-huh.
scandals started hitting Facebook. But I mean, it was mainly just, the people like, yeah, they were
Uh-huh.
interesting, and I think it was really though just like again like okay, I could just like get on my computer and just start like building
Uh-huh.
something. And I thought that was fascinating, something that could, have a big impact in the world. I mean, granted, I don't know if the impact of social media again is probably at this point too overly negative
Uh-huh.
potentially, but generally just like, it was like really fascinating just being able to create something in the whole like digital
Yeah.
world. And then, I mean, I definitely was intrigued by the whole like highs and lows, the adrenaline rush of it all,
Uh-huh.
seeing like raising money, like, oh, we just got like 1 million users, like, all of like, oh, we have a cool office now. Like, yeah, I was definitely intrigued by all of that stuff. It just, everyone just like being in like a house together, just kind of like,
Uh-huh.
working together and just kind of just like that real communal effort and spirit was also another thing that I was interested in or intrigued by.
Yeah, well, it's a rush. But going back to uh, the work and how you were doing the work, it's amazing now that all we need is a laptop and a connection, and you can create so much now. It's really amazing. And I think in the pandemic, when a lot of us were just isolated and had to think about different things, they call it the big reset. So many people started thinking about this and what you can actually do with very little, and you can be so incredibly creative and create tools and apps that people can use in their daily lives. I think it's quite remarkable. So, yeah, even with myself, I coach executives, and I don't need much to do that. Just my, a mic, camera, light, and a laptop, and you can do it anywhere in the world. It's so simple, so straightforward that technology allows us to do those things. So the excitement of working in a house with all that energy around you, do you still do that, or what was your environment now?
Yeah, but I am working at another
Mm-hmm.
startup called Home
Mm-hmm.
Vision, which is focused on home appraisal
Okay.
automation, and we're doing really well, and it's a really exciting company, honestly, and yeah, it's been a great. I've been on there almost a year.
Mm.
Definitely different now. It's just like you mentioned, COVID. I mean, everything is very different now. So I do go into a WeWork,
Uh-huh.
which is nice just to get out of the house.
Yeah.
I do get tired sometimes of working from home. I mean, I think I'm more traditional that way and just like getting up, going to like an office. And I obviously all of us worked from home for a while
Right.
out of necessity. Um, yeah, but we're all remote. The company is fully remote,
Yeah.
so I don't uh, s- work with people in person, although I have gotten the opportunity to go meet up with people, and we've done some company retreats and other group activities, and some people have came to DC, and I've gone to work with
Mm.
them just from them visiting me. But other than that, yeah, it's just a bit of a different working model
Yeah.
being fully remote.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. Prior to this conversation, you sent me three topics that you wanted to talk about. explore remote work, investing, and then life extension, longevity, which are, I mean, they hit home because I do hybrid work, and I seen the pros and cons of working from home or coming back to the office. And I'm a big study of, hacks and concepts, ideas regarding quality of life, and investing. I do okay, but maybe you can provide some guidance. So we'll see where this goes. So remote work, yeah, it's interesting. So so your company right now, it's 100% remote, and tell me, what's the experience been so far for you?
Yeah, I mean, I personally have been fully remote since COVID. Just even I was doing a few different jobs after I left my first startup in
Hmm.
2020, not knowing, I didn't know that COVID was going to happen. So
Yeah.
it was an interesting time for me to leave a job, but hindsight is 2020, so I can't change that. But yeah, I've definitely, I think there are a lot of positives from being remote.
Hmm.
Obviously, getting the flexibility, getting to be more in control of your schedule, just more fluidity throughout the week. Definitely, you also get the opportunity to work with people all over the world, which wouldn't have been
Hmm.
possible otherwise. So I do see all of those positives. I do think on the negative side, you're less connected to your coworkers. There's less of that, I think, cohesion or chemistry. Obviously, just less social interaction at the end of the day. I mean, and then I do think some things can just be more cumbersome. Like some parts of and aspects of work can just take longer, or yeah, it's like, oh, now we got to get on like a Zoom, or if you're in Slack, like get in a huddle, or it's like it can't just like, hey, tap you on the shoulder. And so yeah, I think those are the trade-offs, and it is isolating. I mean, I definitely feel isolated, and some days more than
Hmm.
others. So then that's when I just try to go take a walk or go meet
Hmm.
up with a friend or something.
The social connectivity, it's a huge issue. Myself, part of pandemic, I'm gonna I worked in a 14-story building. I was on the sixth floor, about 200 people, and like you said, you can just tap somebody on the shoulder, and there was incredible energy on the floor all the time. It's we didn't have a complete open plan, but it was fairly open that allowed for a lot of collaboration and easy exchange of ideas and communication. So there was energy there. People can easily talk to each other and share ideas, ask questions, or just be curious about what somebody else is working on. And you can't do that anymore. It's a much bigger challenge to do that. So that's, I think it's a negative. Now we're kind of hybrid, and and we have maybe on a good day 25%, maybe 40, 50 people on the floor now, but it's not the same. So you're managing that hybrid. It's challenging because you can't have meetings in real life because not everybody's there. So you're always either on Teams or on Zoom. Uh, so that connectivity definitely has hurt. Um, so so now, but this is where we're at. And how do you manage that? I mean, you manage a team or more than one team.
Just one team, yeah.
What do you do to stay connected with them? And what has worked for you?
Yeah, I mean that's tough. The hybrid, I almost feel like, I don't know, maybe hybrid is harder than fully remote to some
Hmm.
extent because at least. Yeah, if I even in the past years ago, it's in like 2018 before remote work was as ubiquitous.
Hmm.
I feel like when people would be remote and then some of us would be in the office, it was almost harder to be like you just be like talking with somebody next to you and then like that person wouldn't hear you who's remote. So that sounds tough. I mean, for me now with the team being fully remote, luckily there's a lot of our just learnings and common practices. People have written a lot of books in soft for like managing software engineering teams, and there's a lot of frameworks in place that you can kind of
Hmm.
adapt. One of the biggest ones is called Agile. So like
Yeah.
Agile software engineering is like this whole concept. Not and it has a lot of different aspects to it, not just the coding and how you code and approach to building things, but also how you like organize and lead a
Hmm.
team. And one of the big practices of that is called a daily stand up. So every day, like in the morning, you meet with your team for, I mean, the traditional stand up is only 15 minutes. We go a bit
Yeah.
longer, 45 minutes, and you just basically like go around. There's like project management tools now, like um, this one style. It's called like Kanban, which is just kind of like the simple, these like little cards that you just like drag over from like their status. So it's like, okay, is this to do? Now this is in progress. Now this is done. So you're like tracking all of the work of your
Hmm.
team on this one page. So you just like share your screen, you pull up that page, you can see everyone's work. Then you just kind of go around, check in. And then we also have like other people that it's very interdisciplinary. The stand-ups and just general
Hmm.
software teams are very interdisciplinary.
Yeah.
So you have like someone who's a designer or a product manager or a data analyst. Like they're all on these stand-ups. So it's like also just like getting everyone together and making sure we're on the same page. So that's like one of the I do them every day. Like for my team, I feel like I've really pushed us to do daily stand-ups.
That's
I think
good.
before I joined, we were doing like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Tuesday, Thursday was just like, you know, giving text-based updates just on Slack. But I enjoy doing them daily, and I think that's helped us stay
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah, it's something that we do also. I don't do it myself. My direct reports do that on a daily basis. But I find myself re- re- forcing myself to over communicate now. It's constant, reaching out to people, especially, okay, who haven't I talked to in a few days, in a week? And it's like forcing yourself, okay, I got to connect with this person, I got to find out what's going on. And it's over communicating, which does help. It does help. So you're a WeWork. I mean, I used to go to WeWork. I found that the environment phenomenal. So what do you get out of WeWork?
I agree, yeah, on the over communication piece. I definitely think you have to do more of that now. With WeWork, I think it's great. There's a lot of different options. I mean, first and foremost, they've built this like incredible, like you said, it's a fully built office for you with amenities like filtered
Yeah,
water, hot, coffee, tea, refrigerators. I mean, ours has like this community snack area. I mean, you have to pay for it,
right.
but you can buy snacks there. I mean, some of them, I think this one has like kombucha on tap,
Yeah,
which is a big
that's
thing, or
huge.
and conference rooms. I mean, this one is the third biggest one in the East Coast. It's right in
Oh, it's
downtown
fantastic.
DC near the White
Uh-huh.
House. Yeah, so it's 4 stories. So I feel like I get to it mimics a lot of the old feelings of going into an
Yeah.
office or the this prototypical day of going into an office. I get to experience that by going into a WeWork. There's people around me. It's definitely pretty sparse, I would say, not a ton of people, which sometimes that can have the opposite effect where you're like walking in and it's a huge WeWork. So like sometimes I'm walking down the halls and there's just like no one there. Then it's like, okay, maybe this is yeah, having the wrong effect, but no, most for the most part, I mean, I get you can hot desk,
Mm.
which is a lot
Yeah.
cheaper. I think it's only $100 or something a month where you can just work in an open space. But I like to have more like my monitor and my keyboard, so I do pay for my own private office there, which is definitely way more expensive, but I think worth the cost right now for the time being. So yeah, I get my own office, desk, everything set up. So I think I mean, we have like a roof as well
Uh-huh.
that's like overlooking the National Mall, the
Oh,
Washington
nice.
Monument. You can see the White House from the roof. It's a beautiful roof. So this WeWork is, I've been to a few of them, but I really like
Mm.
this one.
Yeah, the WeWork concept is great. I was part of WeWork years ago, the one in Long Beach, and I loved it. I just loved how uh, it was really well thought out. It forced people to cross paths and network the way it's structured. And so you got to, I mean, I got to meet so many people, entrepreneurs, and people are doing, you name it, everything from real estate to shipping to, I don't know, starting a new solar company. Amazon was in there. They occupied some space. It was just a phenomenal atmosphere. And at that time, we had free beer on tap. I don't know. They,
Wow.
yeah, that was kind of crazy. And there were gatherings afterwards in the afternoon, and then various people will present what they're doing as a way to test their ideas and subjects. So they'll have these presentations. So it was great. Have you seen the movie? I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was on, I think it was on Prime, about the CEO of WeWork. What was his name? Adam. Oh gosh.
Yeah, was it Neumann or Neumann
Yeah,
or
yeah. So they did a whole. I mean, it's more of a drama, but they kind of follow his life. Interesting guy, fascinating guy. So you got to learn more about him and and actually what happened to WeWork through the bad period. So it's fascinating. Um, have you met other people?
I want to see that. I really want to see that. I
Yeah.
don't know. I guess I sometimes I am like I get a little like
What?
hesitant about watching more startup movies because I like that's like kind of my day to day is like doing startup stuff. So I'm like, should I be watching another thing about this or should I watch something else? But I mean, from what I've heard, the story is really wild and interesting. So I definitely want to check it out.
Yeah.
I know there was, I think, a movie. There's like two TV series on
Oh,
WeWork
really?
now, right?
What?
There's one on Apple
Apple
TV
TV.
and one on Hulu. I'm like, everyone's doing the WeWork story now.
Well,
This guy must be getting paid a lot for all these
probably.
TV shows.
Well, it's just interesting to see how this guy how he evolved from a very simple concept and how he evolved and transformed into this. I don't know, guru is the right word, but this person that was highly praised, and at the same time, there was a lot of things going on in the background that were really not too smart. But it's just fascinating to watch all of that, and you actually learn from those things. So yeah. So, but you're in that environment, so I don't know if that's if that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean Yeah, no, it's. I'll definitely check it
Uh,
out. Yeah, I've met some people I mean, I do think, yeah, the this WeWork is just really big. It's
Uh,
so, I think that kind of makes it feel a lot more vast and more spread
yeah,
out. So I could also make more of an effort. I do think sometimes they do some events like in the middle of the day, which I'm kind of like, why? Like, can you do them after work, maybe? Like, networking at like 1 p.m. I'm like, okay, I can't
you
really.
can't.
Or I could. I just need to make the time more. But I have met some people, which has been great. It is a great
Uh,
community.
cool. That's good. So, what about investing? What's there? What are you doing in that area?
Yeah, I mean, not a lot anymore, to be
Uh,
honest. I think I'd been interested. I'd been doing stuff in the stock market for a long time. I mean, my dad is obviously really into
uh,
it, and he kind of taught me some things around it and helped me open up my first brokerage account a long time ago. I think this was probably in maybe even in high school. So I was lucky to get exposed to investing in the stock market at a young age. I yeah, I've done it, and then it's like for a long time it was kind of just for probably like 10 years or so. It was more passive and more casual. And then after in 2020, like after I left my job, like I was really exploring a lot of different career
mm,
paths, and I made a serious attempt at trying to like trade full
mm.
time. Um, yeah, that was fascinating. I probably tried to trade full time for 6 months or
Uh-huh.
so. And yeah, it was tough though. I mean, it's rough.
Yeah.
I said like, okay, I'm not gonna do that full time, and just kept kind of passively investing. But now, I think the volatility in the past like year or so. I mean, obviously in 2020 it was like a huge crash, and then the Federal Reserve did all this incredible stimulus, so then like stocks just went like straight up for like 2 years, and like everyone made tons of money. Unfortunately, I wasn't smart enough that at that point, so I didn't capitalize on a lot of that. But then yeah, towards the like what was it? Yeah, end of last year, 2021, fall of 2021 is when everything started just like selling off.
Yeah.
Obviously stocks can't go up forever, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like this huge sell off, and then ever since that's been all this inflation, interest rates, it's just been so tough to I feel like stay resolved and confident. So I'm actually like pretty much out of it. I did lose a good amount of money, which I'm like, I don't know, some of it's just like, is this there are people that know so much more about this than me at this point. So it's like if I can't compete with the pros. I think I tried really hard, but it's hard, especially if you put the more money you put into it. I feel like it can increase the stress of it all, and seeing like just every day, kind of like your stock up or down. That's just kind of a tough way to start the day. Where I just like check my phone, it's down, but then the next day it's up. And I'm like, yay! It's like okay, I don't know if I want that weighing on me every day. So maybe I'll just leave it to the pros, like financial advisors
Yeah.
or other people. But I don't know.
Yeah, that's I can see that being very stressful. I mean, I know your dad. He's always on it. He's always reading financial books. So seems like that's I don't know if it's a hobby or his other full time job. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we've both been sucked into
Mm,
it um, pretty deeply, but yeah, so kind of just thinking, I think the stock market over a long period of time, if you have the discipline, obviously there's many people have published the data on it, right? Like over a long period of
right.
time, the S&P gives you like an average of 10% a
Yeah.
year, which is pretty good, but there's going to be some down years where you're way down, but so I don't know. I've been talking to financial advisors, and those people definitely know a lot more than me. So maybe the stock market, I might just have like a little bit of money just for like fun.
Mm,
But I think my days of like having a lot of money and like really trying to seriously invest on my own are probably behind me. So I'm trying to look at, yeah, maybe using a financial advisor and also potentially real estate as well. But real estate's also hard because I mean it's not as easy as just, clicking a button on an app and buying a stock or selling it. I mean, you have to like if you buy a bad property, I mean, you're stuck with that until it's not as liquid.
mm,
And that's just like a lot of time. And, in California, I mean, it's really expensive. And then in DC, even around here, it's really expensive. So I feel like if you want to actually make a good real estate investment, you have to go travel
right,
and
right.
fly to a different part of the
Hmm.
country. And then that's, again, a lot of time. So, and I've also just been thinking about this differently. It's like, why do I try to like invest on the side and kind of like spread myself thin or like put myself into these maybe fields that I'm not that well versed in and that there's a lot of risk and like maybe I should just try to just like keep working on my core skills more and just like maybe that's a better way of honestly getting a better return and a better use of my time. Like maybe I should be just keep working on my skills as a software engineer and then I can, grow in my career more and that maybe will lead to better outcomes than trying to just like, oh, invest in the stocks or real estate on the side. Well, it's like, well, I'm just losing money, so like maybe I should just do what I know how to do, right? And then just create businesses from that. Maybe I should, instead of trying to invest in real estate on the side, why don't I try to start, another maybe software thing on the side. Maybe that's just I'm more familiar with that. So I kind of just been trying to flip that mindset
Hmm.
recently and thinking about it. But I don't know. We'll see.
Well, there's, I mean, now it's kind of a good and bad thing, at least from my perspective. There's so much information, and we have access, so easy access to data and information, and the podcast, and this and that, and and there's so many so-called experts out there, and try this and do that, and in the investment world, and get into this sector, and it's like it gets overwhelming. It's like, it's like I said, maybe
Yeah.
it's a good thing to stick to the core, maybe, and go along with that, see where it takes you. So the kind of where I get exposed to so much is the whole idea of quality of life, improving quality of life, and how do we live longer? And there's so much out there now that is so amazing. So many, I consider some very reliable sources, but then again, there's so much information. Then, what do you do? So, what's intriguing to you about this concept about longevity, life extension, quality of life? I mean, and it's actually a good thing that you're at your age, you're actually thinking about this and doing stuff about this. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, I think let's see. Maybe the initial sort of inception in my subconscious started a long time ago when, well, I think, yeah, even just before that, even like very, very beginning, I think my dad being a dentist, and him being in the medical field, I think has always been exposed to some of that like medical terminology, him talking about like different biology things, which has always been an interest. I've always really liked
Mm-hmm.
biology and chemistry. I almost did a PhD in bioinformatics, and I'm still like very intrigued by the whole
Mm-hmm.
field of even biotech. Like I do, again, like very casually, like invest in some biotechs that are doing like in the CRISPR
Uh-huh.
industry and stuff like that. So I think like yeah, my dad having like that background, and my dad's always invested in biotechs
I
as
know he
well, and
has.
always been talking about like the latest
Mm-hmm.
things in the medical industry. So I think I've always kind of had that interest, and then in school, kind of always taking like science classes, and then yeah, on a more somber note, my grandpa on my mom's side, Bob, he passed away after a long battle
Yeah.
from cancer. I mean, it's been a while, but I mean, he fought it for like 8 years, and I think that was like one of the first times I really experienced like a big
Mm.
loss, personal loss, and just seeing what he went through trying to. I mean, he was going to clinical trials, trying new cancer
Sure.
drugs, and doing everything he could. So I think just like seeing that and then feeling that loss, it's just like, yeah, like God, like it's so hard to lose somebody. And that was, yeah, that was like in 2017. And I think even a little bit before that, again, like there's a lot of like interesting and big personalities in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley, people that are always trying to solve
Mm-hmm.
every problem imaginable. Some of it can get a little kind of fringe, but it is interesting just seeing people kind of unafraid to talk about any problem and potential solutions. So I think I was luckily exposed in that regard to
Mm-hmm.
just like a lot of big thinkers
Yeah.
and yeah, and just thinking I there was like I read about this one person who basically just said like a thought exercise to him was like, what are the biggest problems facing society, right? And just like wrote them out. And I think his were like climate change and energy and being like a extinction event.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those were like the main two. And then like I try to do that exercise myself. And to me, I was like, yes, like I understand like obviously climate change and energy is huge, but I feel like now there's a lot of people making progress on that. I know we still have a lot of ways to go. And then in terms of like being
Mm-hmm.
multiplanetary and like, getting the like aerospace and all of that, I also feel like has made more progress. Again, I know we still have a long ways to
Yeah.
go. And then like the one field I still feel like to me like my own one of the biggest problems I wrote down and that thought exercise for myself was again just like medicine and aging and disease. I still feel like we're not making a lot of progress there comparatively to other fields. I mean, I think the life expectancy has been kind of stuck at a ceiling
Yes.
for a long time now. Like we really haven't
I heard in the
been able
US
to
it's actually dropped
eclipse
a little bit.
that. Yeah. Yeah, and then and just seeing like, cancer is still like one of the
Mm-hmm.
top killers. So and then I just became fascinated and honestly I just started obsessing about this whole idea of like being able to really live for a long time and being able to like would it be possible to try to eradicate most diseases and this is more again from like a obviously there's like the more of like emotional side and
Yeah.
trying to like feel good and but I think like physically just thinking about like physically if you're physically healthy like if you can feel 40 at 100 right like that's like a
Exactly.
very idealistic goal, but like what would it take to do that? So I kind of just started reading about a lot of this and listened to like a Tim Ferriss podcast where they went to like Easter Island and talked about rapamycin and
Yep.
um, I reached out to I like emailed all of like the professors on that
Uh-huh.
podcast, and one of them actually like got back to me, who was at
Yeah.
Northwestern, and
Who was it?
I think I just like, oh man, I'm blanking on
That's okay. Maybe you can.
his name, not David Sabatini, um, the other guy, it's on the tip of my tongue, but I actually talked to
That's
him
fantastic.
like very briefly. And like I had like just told him like, look, like I want to like work in your lab. Like his lab was very specific on like mitochondria,
Yeah.
um, very niche stuff.
Hmm.
But I was like, I'm a software engineer, but like I know I can help. I want to do something in like life extension. He's just like, no, like I mean, it was great that he even took my email, and even in the podcast with Tim Ferriss, he said he would just like respond to people's emails and like talk to people. So like I felt he was like, I don't think there's really a match for your background and like my lab. It's like we ended the phone call and I felt defeated. Like I had like begged and like pleaded
Uh-huh.
like any way to like work with this guy. But then like shortly after like he like followed up and like emailed me and said that, hey, I actually think there's another lab that you could work with. And like he introduced me to like this other guy at Northwestern. And then like I would just like talk to this guy like once a month on Sundays. I mean, I was working full
Yeah.
time on a startup, but I was like talking to this guy, Thomas Stoger, who is a PhD, a postdoc at Northwestern, doing a lot of stuff in the aging field around like data
Mm.
primarily and just looking at different genes involved in the aging process. And I think like I had then just like looked up, there was like this, I don't know how I just started learning about a lot of these people like the SENS Research
Mm.
Foundation, which is huge in the Bay Area. And then they were hosting this conference in Berlin. Actually, this was back in 2019, an aging conference, a scientific conference on aging. And to be clear, like there's a lot of different kind of like subfields of
It's
aging. There's
tremendous.
kind of just there's like the more, I don't know what the best way to put this is, but like the almost consumer side, which isn't as scientifically focused, which is more about like, oh, here are like these vitamins that, these
Supplementation.
aren't real,
Yeah.
like supplements, or like, okay, you can go and get like a vitamin IV shot and drip, and like that's great. I'm sure that stuff can help, but like I'm really interested in like the science parts. Like this conference wasn't just like about like longevity in terms of like cosmetic or supplements. This was actually like researchers coming together that are doing real
Uh,
science research, trying to actually like create drugs to help with aging. So I was really lucky to go there. I mean, I went to Berlin in 2019 and saw like some of the leaders in the aging field speak. One of them, Judy Campisi, who is like the leader in sort of senolytics, which is around actually like targeting how cells individually
yeah,
age.
aging is,
And
yes,
she has
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So she's actually her work is in the clinic right now. There is a publicly traded biotech company called Unity Biotechnology that is in a clinical trial with one of the first. It's like one of the only real aging clinical trials right now. It's trying a drug that's using her senolytics research to try to like prevent cells from aging. They had like their first trial like didn't go well, but the second one is going better. I mean, the stock is like a penny stock right now. It's had some tough
Yeah.
times, and there's like the aging field has generally not done well in the clinic. There was like this other big company, I think in like the 2000s. I'm forgetting the name, but like that one had like millions of dollars backed by it and totally flopped. So generally, the aging field is pretty controversial when it comes to like clinics and
Yeah.
but that's also like one very specific slice of it. Like those are literally people like just doing drugs on the overall process of aging. But then you have all the people doing like gene editing, which I think is another part of it. I think aging, which like a lot of people talked about at the conference and a lot of people talk about now, is like aging is the number one disease in the world, right? I mean,
Hmm.
you die, ultimately you die from aging. And yes, what kills you could be a derivative of aging, like
Right.
cancer or heart disease. Yes, and some of those are not just aging. Obviously, like diet, exercise, lifestyle is a big part of it. But at the end of the day, like your risk of death and of getting a disease goes up as you
Hmm.
age. So everything is downstream of aging. So I think just a lot of people are trying to talk about that more,
Yeah.
and which I think is really fascinating. So there's, I think, the whole umbrella of the aging industry and longevity. I think there's a lot of different parts to it. But yeah, I think like gene editing can be one way of potentially curing most diseases in gene editing. But then you also have like the niche, sort of more targeted, like Senolytics thing, and obviously like all the stuff with mRNA that happened with COVID, like is another
Hmm.
huge new technology for combating disease. And then yeah, just the more day-to-day lifestyles. I think that's kind of like yeah, just what I've learned and seen. I mean, it's fascinating.
It's incredibly fascinating, and I have to have a disclaimer here for so we are not experts here on medical treatments or solutions. We're just providing advice. This is entertainment, and the same thing is with investing. You have to do your own research and then take and determine your own risk. But this whole aging field is so phenomenal, and when I talk to people about this, it's the population that's actually thinking about this. I'm talking about the general population. It's actually so small, and I'm not. They're not really. It's not in their normal daily thinking. And then when you meet people that do talk about this and are very interested and are willing to share information, it's such a small portion, but it's exciting when you talk to people that way. And there's so much going on in that field, and you hear about some people call modern diseases, and some of it is cancer, some other diseases, and they're pretty much related to stress from everyday living, and it could be work, it could be anything, and that stress is leading to some, we're getting sick from stress, whereby a long time ago, those diseases were not that common. So these modern diseases. So what do you do about those? What do you do about that? And so there's different ideas out there. But ultimately, when I look at all this stuff, look at all of this, and you look at that when the body starts producing these cells, senescent cells, more and more as you age, and what can you do about those? There's actually some incredibly simple things, and one of them is exercise. It's and it's phenomenal. I mean, we're not talking you need to be an athlete, but you start with exercising, especially resistance training, and especially when you get older, that has a huge impact not only on your brain, plasticity of your brain, but all the chemistry in your body. And you look at our population now, it's so obese. There's somebody told me, have you ever seen a fat 91-year-old person?
I don't know if it's possible.
Exactly. It's and so it's horrible what's going on. So you mentioned rapamycin, and because I'm very interested in rapamycin, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong here, because I'm not an expert on this. But the senescent cells, or rapamycin, it kind of mimics intermittent fasting, and so it does something to these cells that then prevents inflammation. And as we get older, our immune system gets a little bit whacked, and it starts fighting off things that are not really there. and then causes inflammation, and that's not a good thing. So rapamycin supposedly helps in that area, but so does intermittent fasting. And again, intermittent fasting is a simple thing. It's you're not starving yourself, but you do that a couple times a week, and it's a simple thing. Anyway, so what else? What are you trying? Anything particular that you're looking at for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree though. Like, I went on like more like the science
Hmm.
side, but I think yeah, most you could get most of the big gains you can get in aging right now are yeah, just from living a better lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with that. Exercise, just yeah, dieting, intermittent fasting. Yeah, I totally agree. I don't know. I don't know a lot about the inner workings of rapamycin either. I mean, I've read a little bit about some of it. So yeah, I mean, it seems like there's some interesting potential benefits of that. I know David Sabatini, who's been like one of the top
Hmm.
researchers on that, is working on.
Hmm.
I think he was working on a company to try to bring some of the rapamycin research into the clinic. So hopefully we can, yeah, see how that goes. I know metformin is also
Right. It
big, and
is.
there's some clinical trials around metformin and aging as well. Um, yeah, but those I think are still unproven, and a lot of people talk about even like NAD plus and all these other things, which it's like, oh yeah, maybe it does or it
Hmm.
doesn't. I think you just have to be careful with that. But for me, yeah, I mean, I exercise, I run, I go to the gym. Like you said, to the point on stress, I think that's big as well. So I try to meditate
Yeah.
consistently, getting enough sleep. I think diet is big. Like I'm always trying to just watch my diet. In particular, like when it comes to digestion,
Hmm.
and my digestion is
It's
huge. I mean, I think I
huge.
read this one quote like all disease like begins in the gut,
Hmm.
and I think that was like a quote that really stuck with me. So it's like again, not to even get maybe graphic, but even just like scientifically, like if you're not, pooping a lot, right? Like if you go like days without pooping, I mean that is like not
It's
good.
not
So I think I'm
good.
always looking at
It's
that
not.
with like fiber intake. Like and that's like a huge thing with me is, and I probably maybe talk about it too much with like, did I poop today or not? Or think about it, but it is important, and I think that's a huge part of it. So I try to the fiber intake, like from like oatmeal or even fruits like
Yeah.
apples, berries, or salads, just getting those things that they give me a good amount of fiber. I've been trying to even cut back on carbs
Right.
more, doing more of just like a protein and a veggie more, so maybe some inspiration from paleo
Yeah.
there, although I'm not super hardcore. Yeah, fasting I think is big. I mean, I think I try to just not eat if I'm not hungry. Like, it's like I think sometimes like in our culture, it's like okay, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like I won't eat if I'm not hungry,
Right.
or I
Right.
try not to. So I think I definitely incorporate some fasting there, although nothing super structured. And then I do take this like green grass powder like every morning. I just like shake it up and do that. I think that's been really good as well. So yeah, those are just some things.
Well, good.
I mean, I don't like smoke anything. I don't really smoke any kind of um, products, weed, or obviously not tobacco or any of that. I think smoking is in all forms can be pretty harmful as well. And try to, yeah, drinking. I mean, I drink, I enjoy it, but also just trying to keep that in check as well.
Yeah. Your gut biome, it's so critical, and how it's connected to your brain. It's got to be healthy. It really has to be
Yeah.
healthy. I mean, I don't call it a diet. It's just things that I eat. My nutrition, it's pretty much the same thing all the time, except, yeah, like today, it's Sunday. I'm gonna have fun. Gonna eat pizza and portals, and because yeah, you have to reward yourself. But it's pretty much it's a constant thing, and then I like to stay within that range. And when I fall out of it, I feel it. My body just tells me, hey, that's not good, and I can sense it. So it's not like, oh my God, I'm restricting my caloric. No, it's not. I eat I eat well. It's finding what works for you is important, and kind of understanding what these various nutrients, what they do to your body, and it's more like it's you got to know what your body needs, and you have a basic understanding of the chemistry and what happens. It helps, and you got to know what your body needs. So anyway, it's fascinating. It really is. So
Yeah.
yeah, and getting the word out to people. You have to be physical. Get out there. We were made to move. Start doing anything, even if it's just walking. Start there. It's so critical. It really is. So fantastic stuff. Would love to talk to you more about that because I follow so many different people in the nutrient world and in the aging world, and constantly learning what they're thinking and what they're doing. So it's a really fascinating area. So let me ask. So in terms of in your life, who has been like influenced you the most? It could be a person, an event, an idea, or a concept that kind of influenced you. Any thoughts there?
Oh man, so many
Mm-hmm.
people. Yeah, I mean, just so many people. I'm grateful for their support and advice and inspiration. Obviously everyone in my family, from my parents first and foremost, my grandparents, my sister and uncle and uncles plural, you and aunts, and my family has been invaluable, and I'm so lucky to have such an incredible family. And then of course my girlfriend Devin has been a huge supporter, and has honestly, she's incredibly brilliant and has taught me many things. And all my friends, my many friends, I've just I think tried to really make friends with people that can sort of like lift me up in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like there's all those quotes around, oh, the five
Right.
people your closest five
Right.
friends, or like tell you a lot about who you are. And so I've always just tried to make friends with people that I feel like there's a synergy with, and that even like can help me grow in somewhere I can learn from. I mean, I think beyond that, beyond like the more like personal group, maybe like more public figures, I guess. Um, there's a lot. I mean, I think, I'm very inspired by all the works of Jennifer Doudna and Emmanuel Charpentier and uh, Fong Zhang and David Liu, all the big CRISPR
Mm.
gene editing scientists. I think they're all incredible what they're doing. Like that is just, yes, beyond beyond important for the future of our civilization. So I really like look up to all those people, and a lot of the people in the biology, biotech industry, even Like Stefan Bancel, the CEO of Moderna, has been just fascinating story there on how he got started. I started reading this book about how like Genentech was started, which is interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be fair to not mention also Elon Musk. I mean, definitely a very polarizing
Yes.
person nowadays.
Oh,
But truthfully, I did a lot of like my early inspiration for the startup world did come from him, and I read his book that really, I mean, it's an incredible book, and truly, I don't think I'd ever want to live his lifestyle
yeah.
or want to have his level of intensity. I mean, he is remarkable. I mean, and really scary in many ways
Yeah.
with how he can do these things, but it's truly incredible seeing what he's been able to do, and just his book goes into every little detail around what he had to do to accomplish these many feats. And I think he's probably will go down as one of the greatest entrepreneurs ever. I mean, no one has been able to really change energy, and I mean he's changed so many different industries that are so complicated. It's really incredible, but I don't endorse him personally. I think personally, he's has like 10 kids with like four different marriages, has a lot of maybe different political or philosophical beliefs. So like, yeah, I don't all that stuff. I literally just try to look at the more a career entrepreneurial
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, Elon, I've been following him for years also. Quite remarkable human, and it's him and others is that, and we're alive during the time experiencing what he's doing and in the many fields. I mean, just his stories, how ultimately SpaceX came about, just that, how it started and then everything else and all the companies that he's involved with. I have no idea how he can do that. It's I don't know. Does he sleep? Does he eat? What does he do? And he's involved in the technical details. He's not just very high level thinker. Yeah, he is that, but he gets down to the nitty gritty, the basics, the physics, how things work, which is quite remarkable. It's outstanding to be living at this time. There's so much is happening. So I have one last question for you. If you had only one tweet or one text to send and it will go out to all humanity, what do you think it would say? And this is yours.
Wow, that's funny. That's a really good question. Oh man, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of ways I could go with it. I mean, maybe just could be just something simple as maybe more generic or try at this point, but yeah, maybe just simply love one another. I think just that's the end of the day, regardless of what happens in aging or all these other things. Like most likely we're all gonna die. So I don't know. I don't think in our lifetime. Hopefully, I mean, if we can get to a point, if the technology can accelerate to the point where we can live a lot longer, that'd be great. But I just think on a day-to-day, just treat people well. So yeah, just love people, treat people well, and everything else I feel like builds upon that.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, life is so short, and every moment that we get to be kind to somebody and love somebody, we have to take that opportunity. So, Matt, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you being here. I feel like I've gotten to know you even more. And maybe somebody else will watch this and get to know you even more. I think it's great. So if somebody want to reach out to you, how can they do that? I know you're on LinkedIn. Is there another way or?
Yeah, no, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. It was great getting to talk. I mean, I think, yeah, I'm not too, I do use Twitter. I mean, you can always tweet me at Matt Bordas. I don't really use much other social
Mhm.
media. I mean, you could message me on LinkedIn if you want. Probably, yeah, those two ways I would say.
Great. Well, thank you. So you're in Washington, D.C. with your girlfriend. Hopefully, there's a family event over here in the West Coast, and you come down here, and we'll all get together,
Yeah,
have a another dinner, and share some more life stories. Thank you, Matt.
definitely. Yeah, take care.